All right. Happy Monday, everyone. I'm here with Sam Lillie, who is also a California kid, but he's not here anymore. Let's see. Just making sure we're going live. As always, drop a comment where you're listening from. Sam, remind us where you are now.
I live and I'm currently in Port Townsend, Washington. It's on the upper left of the United States, the Washington Peninsula.
And you just mentioned a fun fact about the town that you live in.
Yeah, fun fact, average age is 57, and deer walk the streets. It's a town of 10,000 people.
And I love it. You're going to tell us a little bit about the business you're running, but right, like you don't have to be around a bunch of millennial entrepreneurs in order to be one, right?
Not at all. You don't need to be around a lot of entrepreneurs. You need to have an idea that you believe in enough to pursue and at least test. You have a hypothesis and you just test it. And if it works, then pursue it.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely want to get right into it. It does look like we're live here because I was so fascinated by your story. And first, I just want to tell everyone how we connected. So I was listening, my typical daily routine. I have a bike ride and I plug into podcasts. And I was listening to Entrepreneurs on Fire, EO Fire. And if you haven't been checking that out and you're in this group, go. JLD, the host, does a like 20 to 30 minute interview 7 days a week. So every single day there's new content with entrepreneurs on fire. And
yeah, you should be getting endorsed. You should be getting paid.
Well, there's just so much content and like great ways to make connections. And in this group, we talk a lot about just being a real person and how like in order to make stuff work, you need to make connections. And so I heard Sam on this podcast and they gave his little information. I reached out to him, kind of said a thank you because I resonated with a lot of his story. And, you know, fast forward just a couple weeks, here we are. Like he's generous enough to give us some time. And sure, this is just the beginning of more, you know, collaborations for us. So there's a little tip. Hello, Natasha. Thanks for being here. So anyway, your story was super resonant with me. So just can you walk us through how you started your entrepreneurial journey? I know, you had college and a hiking experience, but tell us how you started out as an entrepreneur.
Sure. My days of entrepreneurship started way back, probably when I was about 6 years old. I started with your typical lemonade stand, and I would sit outside and I'd be there with my lemonade that I made. It was probably Country Time or something, and sell that. And I realized very quickly that that is a seasonal job. That's a seasonal item because it only works when you're hot and you want a lemonade. So in the winter, I sold hot chocolate and coffee. And then I made a batch of pancake batter, and I had a Coleman camp stove. And I lived probably about 5 blocks from the downtown area of La Mesa, which is a suburb of San Diego. Mm-hmm. So I wheeled this lemonade stand down there and I set up this pancake shop and I sold pancakes on the side of the road and very quickly learned, business lessons like make sure your stove works. A hard lesson there. And that moved to Sam's Super Pooper Scoopers, which was a dog cleaning service. I learned a lesson there. Always give a quote before you, work on a project. So I cleaned dog poop for like 8 hours for $40, and that wasn't that great. I did car washing when I was in middle school. I would go to the school during the summer when there was summer school, and I'd knock on all the teachers' doors that were teaching class, and I'd ask if they would want their car washed for $7. And I brought a bucket with sponges and soap, everything, and wax. You could get a wax for the extra $1, and I did car washes over the summer. So your teacher would come in with a dirty car and leave with a clean one. And then I would take the profit I made from that because I bought all my supplies at the 99-cent store. And then took that profit and bought candy from the same 99-cent store, about a 4-pack of candy for $1, and then I'd sell it for 50 cents on the playground.
So
it's cool. It's I don't know. That's
yeah,
you're
always kind of scheming, wheeling and dealing. And something I noticed in that journey is it started out with just like, okay, I'm just gonna give lemonade to whoever comes by. And then it was like, okay, I'm gonna go help people who have a need, pooping, or that beautiful name, Pooper Scooper Upper or whatever.
And Super Pooper Scoopers.
And then you learn the quote thing. Okay, so again, I'm going to have a specific price and fulfill a specific need. And can you fast forward us to the birth of your current project, this vendor? I love the story you shared about your neighbor and his garden.
Yeah, so now I started Vendor. And Vendor connects home gardeners who have excess veggies to their neighbors who want to buy local produce. So it's a great way to support your local economy, and your local gardeners get super high quality food for a really reasonable price. We've got like heirloom tomatoes for $2.50 a pound instead of where you would get them at the farmer's market for maybe $4 to $5. I know Safeway here in town has them for $5 a pound. So they're reasonably priced. I got started with that. I attended a young professionals meeting here in Port Townsend, and they've got young professional networks all over the nation. They're usually in connection with your local chamber of commerce. We have a business resource center. I walked in, I said, hi, my name is Sam. I want to start a business. What resources do you have? And they said, come to this young professionals meeting. I said, okay. This is a town of 10,000 where the average age is 57. I'll meet any young person I could meet. I need some socializing here. And so I showed up the next week at this roundtable discussion where they talked about the positives and negatives of the town. Now, I'm fairly new to the town, so it was great insight for me. And we broke into groups and then came back together and talked about these problems. And the main issues that came up were the fact that cost of living is high in the town. So, and there's mainly just service jobs. So people have to work 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet, to pay for rent, right, and to pay for their food. It's bartending, it's being a waiter or waitress, working at a gym, anything. Sure. And the people here, just like people everywhere else, want to buy high quality food. They want to buy nutritious, delicious fruits and veggies. But they don't have time to go to the farmer's market because it's only offered 2 days a week. It's Wednesdays, smack dab in the middle of the day, and Saturdays in the morning and in the early afternoon. And because people are working 2 to 3 jobs, they don't have the time. So they end up going to Safeway or your big box store because it's open 24/7. It's easily accessible. The produce, the price is cheap, so it fits their budget. But the quality sucks. By the time you get your veggies, they're probably off the vine between up to 2 weeks for lettuce. You can get apples up to a year. They're chemically sprayed, and then they're waxed, and then they're put in cold storage, and then you get them later. And it allows them to keep their crunch, but you don't really get that juicy apple flavor, that's right off the tree. You get handed it, and you're like, whoa, that's sweet. So I'm listening to all these problems, and I'm thinking there should be a service, So I ask that. I look at all these people. There's about 20 of them between the ages of 20 and 45. And I said, hey, you're telling me if there was a service that allowed you to get easy access to local produce, high quality, all the time, and it was reasonably priced, would you use it? And everyone in there said yes. Now, I was working a part-time job. Didn't have a whole lot of money. In fact, at that time, I think I had $27 in my bank account. And
could eat for a couple days. What are you talking about? You're good.
Yeah, eat for like 2 weeks off that. Couscous for days. So I had a lot of time. I didn't have any money, but I had a lot of time. Okay. And I walked home. It was June of 2016. So this is a relatively new venture. And it was sunny. And I saw apples and trees. It was a 2-mile walk home. I saw apples and trees. I saw people with vegetable gardens. And I thought, why can't we buy from our neighbors? That seems reasonable. They've got an apple tree. Mm-hmm. There was a ton on the ground. I thought, they're not eating it. Why can't I just buy a couple? So as I walked home, I just saw an apple tree, and I walked up to the door, and I knocked, and I said, "Hi, my name is Sam. Have you ever thought, I noticed you got an apple tree. Have you ever thought about selling the apples?" And they were like, "The hell are you doing in my yard?" Like, "Who are you?" I said, "Bear with me. I've got this idea. Have you ever thought about selling them?" They said, "No." I said, "Well, if I can find someone who wants to buy your apples, would you be interested?" I said, "Sure, why not? I can't eat them all on the ground, and the deer eat them." Yeah. I said, "All right, I'll be back."
So many times people ask me, how do I start? How do I know what my product should be or my service? And yes, you can look at like what your strengths are. I think that's one like strategy to go about starting a business. But I love this kind of market research. You just like went and talked to real people and saw a problem. And I think some young people could go to a town hall meeting or, a young professionals meeting and feel like, oh, everyone's just complaining. Oh, it was so draining. And for you to turn those problems and to ask for solutions and to see a need, and then again, go talk to the people that have the apples and be still just a real Sam, introducing yourself and saying, can I connect these dots? Can I solve a problem and fill a need in the market? And I just love that, how it's like so organic, no pun intended with the vegetables. I could go all day. And also, when you were talking about the food, we're going to stay focused, but we could go on and on talking about, the Safeway issues and the health ramifications. But all of that would lead up to another conversation about how this is a priceless service, right? And so you created this, it's nutrition, it's access, it's, money for local gardeners or whatever. So talk a little bit more about how you got the courage, like to go to that meeting, to knock on that door, and then, after this, you obviously launched quickly because that was only like a year and a half ago that this idea came to you. So walk us through the next steps and how you had the courage to create Veggie Vendor.
Sure. So the courage was, what do I have to lose? Big picture. What do I have to lose? Am I putting any money down? No. I put zero money down. I just knocked on the door and I said, "Hey, can I buy your apples?" In essence. So it was really more like, it's a random person. I'm not going to probably see them again. Well, it turned out I would, because it's a town of 10,000. So, but you're probably not going to see them. Are you spending a whole lot of money to do market research? No. And what's the worst they could say? No, I don't want to sell my apples.
Yeah.
That's it. And what do you do when someone says no? You're like, okay, where does that leave me? Back where I was. It's like I lost nothing. You just go next door and ask if you can sell their apples. Eventually someone's going to say yes. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. For the first 3 months, I just knocked on doors.
Wow.
I knocked on doors. I asked if I could sell apples, kale, tomatoes, pears, anything you can imagine. I had Post-it notes all over my walls. I took down all the art and photos off my walls, and it then became order forms. And I created a $6.58 Wix website. This is the cheapest one I could get, and I bought a Google domain. So grand total $18.58 is what I started Vendor for. So we talked about cash. Those of you who say you don't have enough money to start a business, it's bull, because you got less than $20, you can start a business. It's that easy. You may not be licensed and registered within your state, but what you're doing is testing a hypothesis before you actually bring it to the market, full market, where then you start investing more capital. But when you're just testing, you've got $20. That's what, 4 beers without the tip. That's 10 $2 coffees. It's not a whole lot just to validate something.
Yeah.
So there's money. You can get it. So then the next step was, how do I design something to take me out of this, to find all these solutions? Doing it firsthand is a lesson I learned from reading Eric Ries's book, The Lean Startup. And everything is MVP, minimal viable product. How can you test your idea, your hypothesis without spending a lot of money, but getting some feedback, getting some validation, and doing it all firsthand in person allowed me to do that. So I said the first 3 months I knocked on doors. I hand delivered 300 pounds of food, 300 pounds of backyard produce between community members. That's in hand, giving them cash, biking over to my other neighbor, handing them a box and them giving me cash, and then biking, back to my house to do it again. So you find these problems from the demand side, from the supply side, and then all the logistics in between. And how do you create a solution that's scalable and allows you to remove yourself, right, and get it more automated? And I did that. I just took the time, because I had a lot of it, and thought about these possible solutions, and an online marketplace was the most viable. And I looked at websites I liked. I have no background in web design or coding, zero. And I looked at a bunch of websites I liked, and I went, I like this feature, I like this feature. And then I bought Photoshop and learned Photoshop, and then you create wireframes. And
there's so much of like the logistics and the technical stuff that is out there online, right? Like, sure. I just talked to someone that was thinking about going to grad school, and they're in this space, and it's like, that like the skills you need are online. Like, so that's great. And something else that I heard, and I like to, sort of future pace, is what is the worst thing that can happen? Like you said at the beginning of this, next step, it was like, I do this for a few months, I knock on doors. What would failing have looked like to you?
Failing would have been nobody would want to sell their backyard produce. I was validating 3 questions, which was, will people buy homegrown produce? Will home gardeners sell their produce? And will they do this all online? Those are my only 3 questions. And if every gardener I asked said no, then I knew that there would be no supply. So immediately that wouldn't work, right? If all the gardeners said yes and everyone else said no on the demand side, then there you go. That doesn't work. So I think that would have been failure. But
even then, no, right? Like even then, okay, well, the gardeners don't want to get in, so how about I focus on filling the need another way, right? Like, sure. I'm just thinking more and more about, like, I don't even know what failure is anymore. Because even if like everyone says no, then you have a ton of data and motivation to move on to something else, right?
So it's only that solution didn't work. There's other solutions. Move on, adjust, pivot, take a different angle, get something, get small farms, I don't know, send out gardening kits or something, grow your own,
Yeah, be creative. Use the resources you have. Yeah.
More than one solution to a single problem.
Yes.
There are just solutions we aren't aware of in the moment.
Yes, that's so true. So something I mentioned to you just a minute ago before we hopped on is really this theme of fear that seems to be coming up. It's like, I don't know if it's a seasonal thing or just like new members joining this group, and so much fear of failure and of losing time or money or like feeling embarrassed, like losing respect. Can you talk to us a little bit about, what your thoughts on facing fears? I know you also have a lot of experience in like hiking trails and getting yourself just into like really uncomfortable places. So
Yeah.
I just would love your thoughts on facing fears in general.
Sure. I mean, I think that's one of the most important things because when you face your fear, you extend your comfort zone. And I think that's very, very important because the one thing entrepreneurs do is they're uncomfortable all the time. They're usually pushing boundaries, their own, and also boundaries of the public, I think. Introducing the public to new things that they're initially are a little nervous about or scared about, but then it becomes benefit with great, you know, positive inputs. I think it's thinking about what you have to lose with the fear if you succumb to it. Um, Starting vendor, my fear was losing just my time. Yeah, I didn't, lose $20. It's really not that bad. Public fear, embarrassment. I think that's what most people are scared of. I think it's failing publicly, and I think if you're trying and you fail publicly, I have way more respect for you because you tried and you put yourself out there, and it is scary every day. Every time you do it, it's scary, and you might fail. And if you do, at least you tried. It's better than those that never tried.
Right.
Ever. And then holding on to that later in life. Personally, I don't want to ever look back on life and say, I was too scared to at least attempt.
Yeah.
I attempted. Maybe I didn't make it, but I gave it my best shot.
Totally.
You can't ask for more.
Yeah, but if you are putting yourself out there, especially in the online opportunities now, like you're putting yourself out there and people might see you having an off day or failing. If you're doing it all by yourself or you're keeping it inside, there's no chance you're going to get help or figure out the next step, or you're just going to be, stuck in your head with that regret that you talk about.
Sure, and if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough.
Right.
You will fail. Everyone fails all the time. Probably daily. It's not, you don't get everything right. I failed earlier because I forgot to bring a rain jacket. I walked in the rain. You learn.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I really like that you're talking about is, not only like putting yourself out there and like being just like unapologetically yourself, but also this idea of like opportunity lost, right? So if you had just like gone to that meeting and never took action, like we could be here talking about you just getting started, right? And like, I just spent 3 months talking to people, and you wouldn't be where you are now. So that idea that like if you don't start now, you lost a year. And also potential income, right?
Yeah.
You decided to go like, okay, like we had this conversation and today was your day to go talking, like I don't like how much money would you have missed out on the past year and a half?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's scary too. That's another type of fear for people to think about. So
absolutely.
All right. Well, we've been chatting for a while here. It looks like people have just been saying hello, hey, not too many questions. But do you have any sort of parting words of wisdom for us? Sort of budding entrepreneurs, growing our businesses, and planting seeds. Okay, I'm done with the garden puns. You take it away.
Keep going. Yeah, getting a good foundation of foundations like soil. I'd say don't be afraid to at least try.
Yeah.
Just try. What's the worst that can happen? You're back to where you started. And what's so bad about this place? Even if you're broke and got nowhere to go, you can at least try, and then what? You're just back to where you were, back to step one. But now you have this knowledge, and you can build upon that, and you've probably met someone, and they might know someone, and you just ask. Just ask, just try, just start. And if you have questions, ask. Don't be afraid to ask. I didn't know anything going into web development or web design, and I just asked. That's one thing. If you have questions, to your listeners, feel free to ask me. You can find me at sam@veggievendor.com. Just like Hannah did, just reach out. I'll reply. Yep. She knows that I did. That's why we're here.
Just a couple of real people using the internet to, make dream life real life.
Exactly, to live your dream life, and your dream life could be talking with people one-on-one like this, or it could be traveling the world and doing an Instagram account where you have these travel photos and get followers. You can do it. You just got to make the leap. You're going to hit rocks, but eventually something will happen.
Yeah, I feel like you might share the same feeling that I have, is that like anything is possible. Like you went to a town meeting, people needed food. Okay, like you've created a business around that. Like, like the Instagram opportunities, there's just so much out there. And so staying where you are and not trying anything.
It's too limiting.
It's not the era to be doing that in.
I think that it's something that's been instilled over time. When we are kids, we are told anything is possible. You can be whatever you want to be. And then we're put through this system that kind of puts us in slots, right? You have to be this, or you should go do this. And they run you down these tracks. And oftentimes failure comes with that. And that's when a lot of people, I think, tend to give up, or they think being an astronaut is not possible for me because I went and became, I started studying something else. It's not. You want it bad enough, you get it. You go after it. You do the work. That's the Pacific Crest Trail was one of those things for me. I trained for 6 months before it. I planned it for 3 years, and then it's a 5-month hike. And you face every obstacle physically and mentally that you might be able to think of, and you want it bad enough, you do it. You keep pushing one day at a time, one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
You may not be able to put in 18 hours of work, right? Because you're working a full-time job. You may not be able to put in 4 hours of work, but you put in 30 minutes every day. What's 30 minutes? One TV show, break it up. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it possible. Send a couple emails. It's possible. It's just going to take time. We're in a society that loves things instantaneously. And entrepreneurship is not that way.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're touching on so many important things as far as, whether or not we go hiking for 5 months or just developing that mindset, that sort of stamina and endurance that you're going to get there, but you're not going to get there if you stay put, right? So one step after another, just, making connections, 15, 20 minutes a day of even mindset work. I am worthy of a dream life. I do have good ideas. I am creative. All of those little baby steps put you on this path to finding the problems like you did, right? Sure. Like you had to be in a place that you were ready for that to come to you. So
yeah. I've got some questions for you, Hannah, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So how did you get started with this? What were some of the obstacles and what got you over your fear?
That's so good. So, I tell my typical story. I was a college advisor. I was one of those people putting people on tracks. Like, okay, choose from the list of things you can do for the rest of your life. And I thought that was going to be kind of good guidance, coaching, but it was really just kind of sad. So I had an opportunity. I was helping start a yoga nonprofit. So I was doing some personal training and yoga teaching in schools, just to fill my soul on the side. And they actually offered me a full-time job. Why? And that is what got me, there was an opportunity. I was in Madison, Wisconsin, and gave me the opportunity to come to San Francisco. And so it was a pretty it's okay. I can work for someone else. It's more of an entrepreneurial mindset, but the startup, this is more safe. Well, that safety lasted for 1 month. And then I was in the most expensive city in the world with no job. And so really, I had no other option. But I knew I couldn't go back to just working a desk job. And I knew I had skills and services and passions that I wanted to share with other people. So I got certified as a life coach. I got a bunch of mentors, and I just committed to making dream life real life and helping others realize the same. So actually my fear came up more as I, oh no, where'd he go? Okay, well, I'm still here, guys. Hopefully he comes back. But yeah, my fear actually came up more as I started taking those steps. The hardest part, like, I had to take the first step. But yeah, continuing to take those little baby steps. I'm sorry, I don't know where he went. He was frozen for a second. But yeah, we will wrap up here because we've been talking for a while. And as you can see, Sam is such a great guy to connect with, super easy to talk to. So I definitely encourage you to connect with him. He's a part of our group now. And, you know, definitely check out his veggie vendor. And as always, drop a comment. If you're a veggie lover, definitely just send Sam a thank you for the, you know, access that he's creating for folks. And if you have any questions for him or any fears, you know, what are those things that are holding you back from taking that first step? You know, we are always here to cheer you on and talk to you about, you know, how to get over those. So, oh, Sam just said his power went out, but we'll be here for you guys live. We are real people. So have a great rest of your week. It's a great Monday to be great, everyone.